Alright, so in this video what we're going to do is we're going to translate and discuss the 1Alpha passage that we have in Greek from our textbook Athenaze. And as per usual, if I'm making a video for you to watch, I'm going to reward you by having embedded items all throughout it so that you can put them in and have an easy and free 100. So let's go ahead and begin. So, ho Decapolis Athenaeos estin. Decapolis is Athenian. Now, of course, Decapolis is going to function as our subject. Estin is our linking verb, and we all know all linking verbs are equal sign. And we've made a CPA, complement predicate adjective, by saying Athenian, or we can substantize it and make it CPN by saying an Athenian. So, Decapolis is an Athenian. Decapolis is Athenian. This, remember, is a semicolon. A semicolon is going to be a raised dot. Day. Now, day means and or but when it is showing a contrast, we are wanting to go with, obviously, but, because we have here Athenian, but Decapolis does not live, or lives not, in Athenaze, in the Athens, which you don't have to say the, and so therefore, in Athens, he does not live, but in the fields. The fields means like the country, or, you know, out on a farm somewhere. A couple of things here is that the word ook and oo are both of the words that mean not. It just is going to be that if the next word begins with a consonant, like pi, it is going to be just simply omicron upsilon, but if it begins with a smoothly aspirated vowel, it is ook. If it had been a rough aspirated vowel, like what you see here with ho, it would have been ook with a chi, as it were, and of course a smooth breathing. But it is a smooth breathing, so therefore ook. So, but Decapolis does not live, lives not, is not living in Athens. Athenaze is in the dative case for the exact same reason that agrois is in the dative case. That is because they're the dative objects of the preposition in. In Greek, if the preposition indicates motion away from, it will require a genitive. If it is indicating motion towards, it will require its object to be accusative. But if it is stationary, like where the word in is, then it is going to take a dative. The difference is that Athenaze is first declension ice, and agrois is second declension ois. But still, just merely going to be the dative plural. Again, with a semicolon, autogos garestin, for he is a farmer. And we have to say a farmer because it does not have that definite article. The Decapolis, and later we're going to see the farm, just like we see the work and the Decapolis, the life, and so forth and so on. So that's why we say, for he is a farmer, period. Oh, someone took me to go back that way. Fantastic. And there it is. George un ton kairon kaipone in toise grois. And so. So please do not confuse un, which means and so, with ook or oo, which means not. Often students do, but a couple of things of difference. One is that the word ook has no accent, and so you can see with oo and ook it only has the smooth breathing mark, whereas here you have the smooth breathing mark and a circumflex accent over the top. That is the difference. And so he farms, and I know it's going to be he, she, or e because of the ending e. The ending e is the equivalency of the ending t in Latin. And so when we're talking about Decapolis, we're going to say he. He farms ton kleron, his farm, or the farm if you would like. Here you can see the, of course, accusative singular of the definite article, whereas the nominative singular was that ho, and there is the accusative singular on. Compare that to what is directly beneath it, is that you have ton kleron, the accusative direct object, versus ho kleros, which is the nominative subject. And so he farms his farm, the object of the act george, and he works in the fields. Again, dative plural, object of the preposition, period. And or but, the life, you could say his life, or you could just say life in general as a concept, is difficult, is hard, a CPA. Raised dot is a semicolon. For, we see that word yet again, ho kleros. The farm, his farm, is small, but the work big. And you can imply that word is again. What we have here is a literary device that we have seen before, in which a is the noun, and so hokleros and hoponos, and then the adjectives that are modifying it to be and be. And so again, chiasmus, A-B-B-A, that shows then that contrast of obviously the work and the farm being both small for the farm and big for the work, as it were. So, continuing on, it says, again, and so he, Dicapolus, always works, always is working. One of those little particle words that is an adverb that causes so much problem in language. Kai polakis Athenaze, and often he groans, he is groaning, he does groan, and he says. He is saying, he does say. Again, remember back in Latin we would say, whereas in Latin there's only one way to express an action happening right now, but in English there are several. And so by translating it, he says, that is the English present simple, he is saying is the English present progressive, and he does say is the English present emphatic. Quote with a semicolon, "O Zeus," in the vocative case, because he's talking directly to him. The life is hard. The life is difficult. Again, subject, equal sign, linking verb, CPA, semicolon. For the work is endless, and that has on it the alpha privative, just like we see with asymptomatic, in other words, in English. The alpha is going to reverse or deny whatever word is attached to. So the work is endless, comma, but the farm small. And again, you can repeat that estin if you would so wish. A word about estin, because we have seen it both as st, which I know we just had it a second ago. Oh no, I messed it up. There it is. Versus estin. On the end of st can go what is known as the removable nu, or the movable nu. And it is just like our English a and an. Next word begins with a consonant, a. Next word begins with a vowel, an. Next word begins with a consonant, no in, no removable nu. Next word begins with a vowel, then you have then the removable nu. So, for the work is endless, but or and, probably but because we've shown in contrast, the farm small, and it, meaning the farm, provides, is providing, does provide not much grain. End quote, period. But the human, this is not man as in man versus woman, but man as in human, mankind. But the human is strong and aoknos, energetic. And so, often he rejoices, he is rejoicing, he does rejoice, semicolon, for he is free, CPA, that's our adjective, and a farmer, CPN. Remember that a CPN, complement predicate nominative, is a noun that is renaming our subject, which here is the understood he, and give us more information about it. Raised period or raised dot is a semicolon, and or but he loves, he is loving, he does love, his house, his home, the house, the home. Again, the accusative direct object. For the farm is beautiful, kalos, where we get the word like calliope and kaleidoscope, and provides grain. What kind of grain? Not much, but enough. Hikanon. So I've forgotten to give you all the various words, but I'll go ahead and give you the first one and point out a couple of things. Your first word is olive, O-L-I-V-E. It is one of the three most important crops of the ancient world. Now, let me point out a couple of things that you might necessarily need to know. First and foremost, it's got diacritical marks all over the place. Be aware of both your breathings. Remember, you have rough breathings, like that one, or hikanon, or you have smooth breathings like that one right there. So, ho is for that one, whereas this is not hestin, but estin. The other diacriticals that you need to know is that all Greek words are going to have a accent. That accent can be a acute accent, which can be on the last syllable, the ultima, the second to last syllable, the penultima, or the third to last syllable, which is the antepenultima. If it appears, the acute, on the very last syllable, the ultima, and immediately there follows it a word without any intervening punctuation, automatically that acute will turn into the grave. The grave, therefore, can only appear on the final syllable, the ultima. That is why you see it here. Ton, there's a word immediately following it, kleron, there's no intervening punctuation, and so therefore it is going to be a grave, as it turns into. Now, I pointed this out a second ago. You would think that that would have turned into a grave, but it doesn't because Esten is an enclitic. That is, that it doesn't really function as though it's its own word. Instead, it is as though it is attached, and thus it becomes kaleposesten as one singular word. At this time you put in your second item, which is the second most, or not second, one of the three most important crops, grape. G-R-A-P-E, from which of course the ancients made wine. Nevertheless, now, so, because Esten is not counting as a whole another word, then therefore that accent is not going to turn to a grave because there's not another word. It's all a part of the same. Lastly, let me point out something else as well. It seems like it's breaking the rules, and that is that you can only have one accent per word. Well, look at Athenaze. It looks like it has both the third kind of an accent, which remember is a circumflex, and it has another accent on that same word. But that's not really two accents on that word. Because Esten, as I said, is an enclitic, it is pretending as though it is a part of Athenaze, and so this accent is actually Esten's accent, and this accent is Athenaeus' accent. And so in that way, we have actually followed the rules and have only one accent per word. It just happens to be that for a verb, all verb, the accent is trying as hard as it can to get as far to the front of the word as it can. And so therefore, it is going to go one syllable, two syllables, and three syllables from the end, which of course is the anti-penultimate, as it were. So, there it is. Make sure you're familiar with diacritical marks and punctuation, and as well as, obviously, the content of the chapter as a whole, particularly the vocab words as well. And that brings us to the final and third item of the ancient world that was so important agriculturally, and that is just wheat. Wheat of all kinds. It could be farro, which is a particular kind of wheat, but it is those grains that are then ground up and made with bread, all kinds of ubiquitously in the ancient world. So, hopefully this has helped you out. I didn't want to try to make it that long, but also chock it full of all kinds of good and helpful information, and hopefully you'll do well. Thanks so much.